Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel techdeskvlogs with a video which is the second part. Guys, if you are new to my channel until now you haven't seen the first part yet, then please find the link of the first part video given in the description box of this video. Also, you can click on the I button link given on the top right hand side of this video to watch the first part. The most important thing which will motivate me, before starting this video, guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do like, share, subscribe, and once you get subscribed to my channel do not forget to click on this bell icon right next to it in order to get notifications about my latest videos. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. Time to install an OpenCore bootloader. Here first step is to adding the base OpenCore files, and to set up OpenCore's folder structure, you will want to grab the EFI folder found in this OpenCore package release 0.6.1 which I had already downloaded earlier. Link to download this package is given below in the description box of this video. Please note here, latest release of OpenCore package 0.6.3 is available to download. You have to download the latest release whenever available to download and use it. Now, here is my OpenCore package, release 0.6.1 from which, I'm going to grab the EFI folder. Copy the EFI folder from here and paste it inside the EFI partition of the USB installer, which is fat 200 megabytes in size. Now, let's open up our EFI folder which is on the root of the EFI partition of the USB installer, and see what's inside. Inside which there are two folders as you can see here. The first is boot and the second is OC. Now open up the OC folder and see what's inside. Inside which there is a bunch of folders and one file as you can see here. Here we want to clean up the acpi, drivers, kexts, and tools folder. Also, grab the sample.plist file for setup, which is currently on my desktop. This sample.plist will be located under the OpenCore package release 0.6.1 and then navigate to docs folder which I had already shown in the first part video. Now, rename the sample.plist file to config.plist. Here as you can see that we have 6 folders and 2 files. Let's start to clean up the folders which we want, one by one. Here, the first folder is acpi, which is currently empty. The second folder is bootstrap, in which there is only one file. The third folder is drivers. Now something you will notice is that it comes with a bunch of files in the drivers folder. We don't want most of these. Remove everything from drivers, but keeping open runtime.efi file. The fourth folder is kexts which is currently empty. The fifth folder is resources which will remain the same without removing anything. The sixth folder is tools, remove everything, but keeping open shell.efi for troubleshooting purposes. Now, the cleanup of the required folders is done. Next, before we start the setup of our config.plist file, which is the configuration file, we have to place the necessary firmware drivers, that is, .efi into the drivers folder, kexts, and acpi into their respective folders. Guys, now side by side, with this video, you have to use tortania.github OpenCore install guide. Link of this guide is given below in the description box of this video, from where you will be able to download all of the required miscellaneous files for your different platforms, on which you are trying to install macOS. This video will help you, how to gather required miscellaneous files for your platform. It may be your Intel desktop or laptop computer. Everything is coming next in this video. Here I'm going to start gathering or downloading the required miscellaneous files for my Dell laptop from this OpenCore install guide. As you can see here on left hand side, click on Gathering Files under the title USB Creation. In this section Gathering Files, here as you can see firmware drivers, which is the universal required drivers for the majority of systems. You will only need this .efi drivers, used by OpenCore, in UEFI environment. If you have some time and you are not in hurry, then I recommend you can read all of this information provided here, which will help you further to understand the things more clearly. Click on this link to download the hfsplus.efi driver. When you scroll down the web page you will see hfsplus.efi file, and the option to download the same. Click Download. Our second firmware driver, which is the openruntime.efi, you don't need to download it because this driver is already there inside the drivers folder. Legacy users. In addition to the above, if your hardware doesn't support UEFI, then you will need the following. But this video is for UEFI users, and my laptop has UEFI mode, so I'm leaving it here. Next is the kexts for download. You can think of this as a driver for macOS, which is required for the functioning of multiple devices. These files will go into the kexts folder in your EFI. All of the kext listed in this OpenCore install guide can be found in an updated latest version in the kext repo to download. Two of these kexts are must-haves, required kext files. For the majority of systems you will need Virtual SMC and LILU. Download both of the kexts files from the link shown, kext repo, for an updated latest version. Let me show you the versions available for download by opening the both links one by one. When you click on Virtual SMC link here, the latest release 1.1.7 is available to download. And when you click on the second link, that is kext repo, which is an OneDrive link, here you get release 1.1.8 to download. Download it. Now, download the kext, LILU. Here as you can see we have downloaded our both kexts Virtual SMC and LILU. Now, what are Virtual SMC plugins? If you are desktop users, can ignore it. Doesn't work on AMD CPU-based systems. Only Intel CPU-based laptop users can use it. All 5 of these plugins are not required to boot, and merely adds extra functionality to the system like hardware monitoring. All 5 of these Virtual SMC plugins were already downloaded with Virtual SMC kext. The Virtual SMC plugins. If you are Intel CPU-based laptop users, then which of these 5 listed plugins is required by you? Let's see one by one. The number 1 plugin is SMC Processor.kext. Used for monitoring CPU temperature, doesn't work on AMD CPU-based systems. The number 2 plugin is SMC SuperIO.kext. Used for monitoring fan speed, doesn't work on AMD CPU-based systems. Number 3 plugin is SMC LightSensor.kext. Used for the ambient light sensor on laptops. Desktops can ignore do not use if you don't have an ambient light sensor that can cause issues otherwise. Number 4 plugin is SMC Battery Manager.txt. Used for measuring battery readouts on laptops, desktops can ignore. Number 5 plugin is SMC Dell Sensors.txt. Allows for finer monitoring and control of the fans on Dell machines supporting System Management Mode SMM. Do not use if you do not have a supported Dell machine. Mainly Dell laptops can benefit from this text. For non-Dell laptop users require 4 plugins except the last plugin which is required by Dell laptops. For graphics you have to download, whatever green is our next text. Download it. For audio you have to download, Apple ALC is our next text. Download it. Here our next text is for Ethernet. You have to download any one of the listed text here for what Ethernet card your system has. To check which Ethernet card your system has, open the device manager. In network adapters you will be able to know which Ethernet card your system has. In my case, my Ethernet card is from Realtek. So here I'm going to download Realtek RTL8111. Here I'm downloading it from the text repo, OneDrive link. Here is the next text which is for USB. I'm not downloading it. If in case you face a problem then you can download it. In my laptop, all of the USB ports are working. One is USB 3.0 and 2 USB 2.0 is there. The next text is for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I'm not downloading it because on my laptop the model of the Wi-Fi card is not compatible. From extras, I'm not downloading anything here. From laptop specifics, I'm going to download input drivers for my laptop keyboard and touchpad. You have to figure it out, that what kind of keyboard and touchpad you have from the listed drivers. To figure out what kind of keyboard and trackpad you have, check Device Manager in Windows. As you can see here my laptop keyboard and touchpad are standard PS2, for which I'm going to download here, Rehabman's Voodoo PS2 driver. But, you can also download Voodoo PS2 driver, and keep it with you, to use it in case if your keyboard doesn't work. If you are still not able to figure it out, don't get confused, and try both of them, one by one and check which works for you. Time to create SSDTs by using automated tool method, the simple way. Before that, let me move all of the downloaded drivers and texts from the download folder, in their respective folders. This is the EFI partition of my USB installer in which I'm going to place the downloaded firmware driver and texts. Here, first of all, I'm moving the firmware driver, which is hfs+.efi, from the downloads folder to the drivers folder. Next is kexts, so first kext I'm moving here is virtual SMC into the kext folder. This is the zip file. You will need to first extract it and then delete the original zip file from here. As you can see here, that with the virtual smc.kext, you also get the 5 virtual SMC plugins. I'm deleting the smc light sensor.kext file from here, which is of no use in my laptop. If you are a non-Dell laptops user, then you have to delete the smc dell sensors.kext file, also from here. Next kext is lilu, move it, extract it and delete the original zip file after extracting it. Keep only the lilu.kext file here. Now you have to repeat the same thing with the remaining kexts also. Here the last kext is for my laptop keyboard and touchpad, in which I found no kext file. So, I deleted the kext folder and again downloaded the kext from the given link, which is kext repo, for an updated kext file. Click on this link Voodoo PS2, you will see the release version, which is 2.1.7 of this kext. You can download this version also and keep it with you. But I'm downloading my kext from the kext repo link, which is a OneDrive link. Now all of the downloaded kexts files are finally placed here, in the kext folder of the EFI folder, successfully. Firmware drivers and kexts were successfully placed in their respective folders. Now time is to place the required SSDTs in the acpi folder, which are platform specific. Here as you can see that currently acpi folder is empty. You will be going to see the method, how to create SSDTs, the easy way. For that, click on this link Getting Started with ACPI. What SSDTs you need in your specific ACPI section of the config.plist, as the SSDTs you need are platform specific. Here as you can see that, for creating SSDTs, we have three methods, from which you can choose any one. The first method is pre-build SSDTs. The second is the easy way. And third is the long way. But as you know, I'm going with the second method, the easy way, to create my SSDTs. Click on SSDTs, the easy way link. Now, here I'm going to download and use this super simple tool SSDTime. Click on this link to download the tool. Here I had already downloaded this tool, which is on my desktop. Here it is. Time to run SSDTime tool. Run the ssdtime.bat file as admin, on the target machine. As you can see here, this is the Windows batch file. You should see something like this. SSDTime. What are all these options? If you want to know about all these options here, then you can read about all these options first. As you can see here, current DSDT is none. What we want to do is select option 8. Dump DSDT first, then select the appropriate options for your system, one by one. Now, type number 8 to select the option 8, dump DSDT, to automatically dump the system DSDT. As you can see here that, dumping DSDT table is successful. Now you can see here my laptop's current DSDT and its location, where it is saved. DSDT with the extension .aml is saved in the folder, results. Here, you can see the full path. Next select the option number 1, which is fix HPET, patch out IRQ conflicts. Type number 1 to select the option. Now here, you have three options from which you have to select the first option C, which is the default option. Here, type C. OK, patching is done, press the Enter key to return. Next is option number 2, Fake EC, OS aware, Fake EC. To select this option type number 2 here. OK, done, press Enter key to return. Next is option number 3, Fake EC laptop. To select this option type number 3, here. The next option is number 4, plugin type. To select this option type number 4 here. OK, done, press the Enter key to return. The next option is number 5, PMC. To select this option type number 5 here. OK, done, press the Enter key to return. Next is number 6 and 7 for which, here I'm not creating the SSDT for my system. My suggestion for you, is to read about options number 6 and 7 first, then select the appropriate options for your system. If your systems have newer hardware, then you can create the same SSDTs, if it is required. Now, I have created the SSDTs for my system from number 1 to 5, number 6 and 7 is not required for my laptop hardware. So, I'm going to quit the SSDTime, for this type the letter Q, to quit. Now, on this particular page, from where you will be able to download the simple tool, SSDTime, If you scroll down the web page a little, then you will be able to read about all of the options used here to create the SSDTs. Time to place the created SSDTs in the acpi folder, and here you can see the location of this folder. It is in the EFI partition of the USB installer. After placing all of my created SSDTs in the acpi folder, I will need to add all my SSDTs in the config.plist file in the acpi section. You will see how to add all your SSDTs, kexts, and .efi drivers to the config file later in this video. All of the SSDTs get created in the downloaded ssdtime folder, which is on my desktop. Here in this results folder you will see all of the created SSDTs. Please note, here you will see .aml has complied, and .dsl is code. You will need to use only the .aml SSDTs file from here. From here, I'm going to use 4 of these SSDTs which were created here for my system. And here in the acpi folder, I'm placing all of the SSDTs. As you can see here, now my acpi folder is also filled with the 4 of these SSDTs, which I had created automatically by downloading and using a simple tool called SSDTime, which you have seen it. Before we start to proceeding further in this video, here I would like to bring to the notice of you, might be you don't know, or skipped by you. Let me clear that thing here. You have been seeing here that I have placed 4 SSDTs here in the acpi folder. However, I had created 5 SSDTs by using the tool ssdtime from number 1 to 5. Let me show you here that number 3 option, that is, fake EC laptop, is not created, because no fake needed here. Here as you can see that, my acpi folder is ready with SSDTs. Here the second folder is Bootstrap, there is nothing to add. This .efi file is by default here. Here the third folder is drivers, which is also ready with the required drivers for my laptop. Here the fourth folder is kexts, which is also ready with all the kexts required by my laptop. Next, you are going to see what is left to add. Do you remember that while creating the SSDTs, by using the automatic tool SSDTime? Here, I had created the SSDT by selecting option number 1, fix HPET. With this SSDT you will also need to merge ocpatches.plist into their config.plist file. Please read this here. And these are the steps here. Now, you are going to see these steps. How to merge. Here, I have to delete the acpi patch section from config.plist file and copy the acpi patch section from patches.plist. If you want to read anything from this OpenCore install guide, for instance, SSDTs, as you can see here, links are given on the left side of this web page. You can click on these links: SSDTs for desktop, high-end desktop, laptop, and getting started with acpi, from where you can download the SSDTime tool. Gathering files and placing them in their respective folder is done at this stage. Next is config.plist, setup. Click config.plist setup. Now that we've got all our texts, SSDTs, and firmware drivers, your USB should start to look something like this. You have already seen in this video that placing my SSDTs, firmware drivers, texts in their respective folders. Please note here, your USB will look different, everyone's system will have different requirements. Guys, now comes the important part, config.plist setup. Before starting to set up config.plist, given here 4 segments must be clear to you. 1. Create the config.plist file. For this, grab the sample.plist from the OpenCore package. This will be located under the docs folder. Next, move it onto USB's EFI partition, will be called boot on Windows, under the EFI OC, and rename it to config.plist, which I have shown you at the starting of this video. 2. Adding your SSDTs, texts, and firmware drivers in config.plist file. You're gonna need some form of plist editing. And for our guide, we'll be using proprietary universal plist editor. 3. Selecting your platform means if you are an Intel desktop or Intel laptop users, for which you are creating the config.plist file. Each platform has its own unique quirks, that is, settings, that you need to account for, so knowing your hardware is super important. 4. After selecting your platform, next is configs. In this segment, you will need to select the settings available for your config.plist file for your platform. Whether your platform is Intel desktop or Intel laptop, select from the given processor code name. For instance, mine laptop processor code name is Haswell, i5, model number, 4200U, 4th generation processor. So I'm going to select the Haswell from the link given in Intel laptop config.plist, which you will be going to see next in this video. Here, my suggestion to you is don't click on the links given before watching this video till the end. First of all, watch this video, and know the things like how to create config.plist and then how to set up config.plist file. Now, to set up my config.plist file here, I have to select my platform here, which is an Intel laptop. Then in configs. As you can see here, Intel desktop config.plist, if you are a desktop user then click on this link and select your processor code name from here. And if you are a laptop user, then click on this link Intel laptop config.plist, and select your processor code name from here, for setting up your config.plist file. Here I'm clicking the Haswell. After clicking on Haswell, you will come here to this page where you can see the starting point. From here, this guide will tell you how to configure everything. You can make your config.plist for your platform, you won't be left in the cold. It just takes some time. This also means if you have issues, review your config settings to make sure they're correct. Please note here, the main thing to note, when we start to set up config.plist file, these are all sections under the title, Haswell, starting from acpi to UEFI, which you are going to see in the config.plist file by default, while editing. All properties must be defined in these sections, and do not delete sections unless told explicitly so. If the guide doesn't mention the option to change, leave it at default. Next, you are going to see in this video, that, how you can define the properties of these sections. Now, with all that, a quick reminder of the tools we need. 1. Proprietary Universal Plist Editor. 2. Gen SMBIOS. For generating our SMBIOS data. 3. Sample, config.plist file. I believe you know now how to obtain the same. Setting up OpenCore, config.plist file for your platform. I recommend you to read this OpenCore install guide, with my video guide to getting information regarding your platform, for instance, settings. Before setting up your config.plist file, and make sure you have it set up correctly. Do note that images will not always be the most up-to-date, so please read the text below them. If nothing's mentioned, then leave them as default. Let's start setting up the config.plist file, starting from the first segment of the config.plist, which is the acpi. Now, to edit the config.plist file, I'm going to use the tool, which is a proper tree. Here, as you can see on my desktop, I have had already downloaded this tool here. Now to edit config.plist, open your config.plist by clicking on File, and selecting the config.plist file on your USB. Here, as you can see all of the segments, from ACPI to UEFI, in the root of this config.plist file. I'm going to define the properties of these segments, according to the OpenCore install guide, which are required by my laptop to make the boot, and accomplish the installation of macOS. I'm removing these warning entries from here. If you wish to clean up the file a bit, you can remove the hashtag warning entries. Though, they cause no issues staying there, so up to personal preference. Now side by side I'm going to use this OpenCore install guide. Here, as you can see, the first segment is ACPI on both sides. When you click on this small plus sign to expand the ACPI segment, here you see a lot of entries in the file. Now click on this first image, given in the guide, under the ACPI segment, to make the necessary changes which are highlighted with the red color. Here in this image, as you can see, entries highlighted with the red color, shown are added SSDTs, and patch related to SSDT, for your system. Now I'm going to add here, generated SSDTs, and patches for my laptop. To add all of the generated SSDTs, gathered texts, and .efi drivers to the config.plist file. Click on the file, then click OC snapshot. Now, click on the EFI, and then click on OC folder, which is in the EFI partition of your USB installer. Another way to use this option OC snapshot, by pressing the keys in combination, for instance, Ctrl+R, that will add all your files as well but will leave entries disabled if they were set like that before. Useful for when you're troubleshooting, but I'm using this option first here. Please note, as you can see here, this false means all of the entries are left disabled. That's it. As you can see, all of the SSDTs are added here. Not only SSDTs but all of the texts and .efi drivers are also got added automatically in this config.plist file. Now again, click on File, then click on the option, OC Clean Snapshot, or, press keys in combination, Ctrl plus Shift plus up, and, point it at your, EFI, then, OC folder, to perform a clean snapshot. This will remove all the entries from the config.plist, and, then adds, all your SSDTs, kexts, and, firmware drivers to the config.plist. Please note, I would like to draw your kind attention here. As you can see here now it changed to true. Here in this ACPI section of my config.plist file all 4 SSDTs created for my laptop are added here. Before moving ahead, guys, for those of you who are new to this, or technically not sound, you don't need to get confused, you need to just keep watching this video till the end and follow the steps exactly shown, after figuring out what is required for your particular platform. Let's move and see what is next in this ACPI segment of OpenCore install guide. I believe you know now how to add SSDTs, and you can read this information given here. Here next section is delete, leave it, we can ignore it. Here next section is patch, I'm going to merge OC_patches.plist here. Users of fixHPET, SSDT will also need to merge this into their config.plist. Before merging, first of all, you need to remove these two from here, one by one. Right-click on it, and select the option to remove it. Now I'm going to copy the patch section from the OC_patches.plist, and paste them here in the patch section of the config.plist file. To copy the patch section, I'm going to open the OC_patches.plist file, which is in my ssdtime tool folder, then in the results folder on my desktop. That's it, here done with the patch section. Before moving to the next section, save this config.plist file first. Here the next section is quirks. Leave everything here as default as we have no use for these quirks. Here is done with the acpi segment, with all of the sections in it. Here next segment is booter, in this OpenCore install guide. As you can see that nothing is highlighted with red color on this second image to make the necessary changes in our config.plist file, so leave it, you can ignore it. But read all the information given here before moving ahead. These are the two sections MEO whitelist, and quirks, of this segment. Here next segment is device properties in the OpenCore install guide. And, here, in the config.plist file, as you can see the section Add. Under the segment, Device Properties, this section is used for setting important iGPU properties. When setting up iGPU, find the right values given in the table to set. When setting up your iGPU properties, follow the configuration notes table, given here in OpenCore install guide. If they say anything different, let's start setup here this section for setting important iGPU properties. Here in this image, as you can see, the very first thing, this property must be the same, in our config.plist file. Currently, which is not the same. So, I need to add this same property here in the config.plist file. I'm going to remove by default property from my config.plist file given here. After removing the by default property, right-click on Add. To add, select the option, A New Child under Add. Now copy the property given in the OpenCore install guide. And double-click on this new string to paste the property here. The second thing in this image, as you can see here, is the type to change. Give a double-click here, on a type, to change the dictionary from a string. The third thing to add in our config.plist file is to copy the next property from the OpenCore install guide, as you can see here. And right-click on this property, to add, New Child under the shown property. Now, double-click on the new string to paste the property here, as shown. Also, I have to put the value of this property here. As you can see, that value is currently empty. Now, again, check the image. In the OpenCore install guide, here shown, the type of property, which is data, I need to change in my config.plist file, the type from string to data. Now, to define, or, to put, the value, in the property, scroll down this OpenCore install guide page, a little, and, check the table given here, to find the property values. This is the property, and, these, are the values, of this property. And, I'm copying, this second value from here, for my platform, which is the laptop, as you know. Here, let me clear this thing, that why I copied second value, for the property AAPLIG, platform, ID. As you know now, that, this section is used for setting important iGPU properties. iGPU is, Integrated Graphics Processing Unit. You must read this comment given here in this table. As per this comment, this value is given here, to be used usually with HD 4200, HD 4400, and HD 4600. Mine is HD 4400 graphics. HD Graphics 4400 was an integrated graphics solution by Intel, included in some of the ULV Haswell processors. Let me show you how to check the graphics your platform has. If in case you don't know, here it is, as you can see, Intel HD Graphics 4400, and, my CPU is i5 4200U, which is the 4th generation, based on the Haswell architecture, and here is the current resolution. All this information is required, if you boot, and, you get no graphics acceleration, if you see, 7 MB VRAM, and, solid background for the dock. Then you likely need to try different, AAPLIG, platform, ID values, add stolen MOM patches, or, even add a device ID property. In addition to the AAPLIG platform ID, property, you will want to add the cursor byte size patch because of some glitches. Please read this information given here. Now copy these keys given here in this table with their values, one by one, to add. Copy the first key from here, and, to add the key, here, give right-click on this property, then select the option as shown. Give a double-click on the new string, and, paste the key. The type of the key is data, as you can see in this table. Double-click here to change the type from string to data. Now copy the value of the first key from the table to put it here. Now repeat the same thing with the second key and its value to add, as shown to you. As you can see here in the config.plist file, now, 3 keys are got added with values. Special note, for HD 4200, HD 4400, and HD 4600 graphics, if you are using them, you will also require a device ID spoof to be supported. So, copy the key and its value from this table given here, to add them in the config.plist, as shown to you. Now you can see here is a total of 4 keys that got added with their values. Now, save the config.plist file. Here, the next section is delete. For us, we can ignore this. Here, done with the setup of the segment, device properties, and with the section add. Here, the next segment is kernel in this OpenCore install guide. Here, as you can see, in the image, in this segment kernel, the section quirks have some red color marking, which is necessary and needed to be changed in our config.plist file. Now, in this section, quirks, settings relating to the kernel, for us we'll be enabling the following. Here, in our config.plist file, as you can see, the first quirk is false, which is the Apple CPU PMCFG lock. It is disabled by default. So, we have to enable it according to the OpenCore install guide. To change the value of this quirk, double-click, and change it to true from false. Now, enable the rest of the quirks, which are shown in the image of the OpenCore install guide. This quirk here, which is the custom SMBIOS GID, enable it, for Dell, or VIO systems. By default, this quirk is disabled here, as you know that my system is Dell. So I'm enabling it. This quirk here, which is the Lapik kernel panic, currently, which is disabled. You can enable it, if your system is HP. Here I'm leaving it disabled. That's it. Now save the settings of config.plist file. Here, done with this section quirk. The next section is a scheme. Nothing to change. I'm leaving it. Now, on scrolling down the OpenCore install guide webpage a little, you will be able to read the info given here about all of the quirks which we just enabled. Here, the next segment is miscellaneous, as you can see in the image. Changes, with a red color marking, for us to do, in our config.plist file. Changes are starting from the section, debug, till the section, vault. Let's do the changes here in our config.plist file, according to the OpenCore install guide. Here, in the security section, as you can see, the comment is given for the quirk, secure boot model, that is, disable if you require NVIDIA's web drivers. I'm leaving it to default. The next quirk is a vault. Change the value to optional from secure. Here, changes are done, in the segment, miscellaneous. Now scroll down the OpenCore guide, a little, and, here is the info, was given to read, about all of the sections, in the segment miscellaneous. Here comes the next segment, NVRAM, which is very important. Here, in this image, given in the guide, as you can see, we can change the boot arguments, that are useful for troubleshooting problems, with system startup, and, how the system behaves when running. Here, in the config.plist file, you can see the entry, boot arguments, and its by default value. Here, let me first describe to you what are these boot arguments given in the value. Guys, I am getting the comments regarding the problems that, after creating the bootable macOS USB installer with all of the SSDTs, drivers, and kexts, get stuck at Apple logo, or booting stucks with the error on screen. In that case, you can try to boot your system after changing the boot arguments in your config.plist file as per your need. I have provided here some of the boot arguments for you to read, will flash on the screen next. I recommend you to read about all of the boot arguments. You must know about all of them, which will be useful for troubleshooting problems. If in case you face any problem, you can try to boot your system in verbose mode to see the errors on the screen. If you are not able to fix or troubleshoot the problem, then you can reach to me via comment box with the errors if you get. Here, in the config.plist file, I'm modifying the boot arguments entry, which is required for my system. Now to change the value of the next entry here in the config.plist file. As you can see, in the OpenCore install guide, that value is not given for the same highlighted entry here. For this, scroll down the page a little here, you can read all of this information given here about the boot arguments. Here comes now GPU specific boot arguments. You can read the description of this argument given here, as you can see. Used for disabling all other GPUs than the integrated Intel iGPU, useful for those wanting to run newer versions of macOS, where their discrete GPU isn't supported. I'm copying from here this boot argument to add it in the entry boot args of the config.plist file. I have used this argument here because my NVIDIA discrete GPU isn't supported, and due to this, booting gets stuck at the Apple logo when I boot from my USB installer. Here, the next entry is CSR active config, and by default, it is set to 8 zeros, which enables system integrity protection. You can choose a different value to disable SIP. It is recommended if you are new and trying to install macOS on your system for the first time, to get rid of any error while booting from your USB installer during the installation. More info can be found on the troubleshooting page, disabling SIP. I'm going to show you here that, by using which value you can disable the SIP. Click on this link, disabling SIP. Now, from here, I'm copying this second value for disabling the SIP. This will disable text signing and file system protections. If you want to re-enable SIP, then use the first value, that is 8 zeros. Now, for our next entry, which is the highlighted, as shown in this image, in the OpenCore install guide. Scroll down page a little, and here the value for this entry is given. Which I'm copying it from here, and add it in the entry of the config.plist file. As you can see here, the type of this entry is string. Now, here, done with the segment NVRAM, with all of the highlighted sections, as shown in the image of OpenCore install guide. Now, save the settings of config.plist file. Here, our next segment is platform info, as you can see here, that, in this image of OpenCore install guide. Nothing is highlighted here. That does not mean we are not going to set up this segment. Here given system product name, system serial number, etc. is required to change. For setting up the SMBIOS info, we'll use GenSMBIOS application. Here, as you can see, on my desktop, I have had already downloaded the application GenSMBIOS for setting up the SMBIOS info. Now, here, in the downloaded GenSMBIOS application folder, run this Windows batch file script, as shown to you, by giving right-click on it, and run it as an administrator. GenSMBIOS application is now running. Here is given something to read. Mac serial not found, remote version 2.1.6, current plist, none, and plist type, unknown. Next is given here, a few options for us to use one by one, to generate SMBIOS info, for our segment, platform info, given in the config.plist file. To select option number 1, type number 1 here and hit the Enter key on the keyboard. As you can see here, gathering the latest Mac serial info. It is done. Now, here, as you can see, the Mac serial info is showing up. Next is the current plist, which is showing none to us. Now to select our config.plist file here, select option number 2, and drag and drop the target config.plist file here. Guys, if in case you are not able to drag and drop your config.plist here, for this, you have to save, and quit the config.plist file, which is opened in the application, property, plist editor. Now, here in the application SMBIOS screen, as you can see that it is showing up our config.plist file, with the full path, which is now selected, and also, the plist type, OpenCore. Let's move to select the next option here, which is, Generate SMBIOS. For this, type the number 3 here, and, then hit the Enter key on your keyboard. Now, here, as you can see this line given, read it first, asking, please type your SMBIOS to generate. For this, come to the OpenCore install guide. Here, scroll down the page a little, and, in info, I'm copying the same given example, for Haswell, that is, MacBook Pro, 11,1 SMBIOS. Again, I must say here, if you are new and trying to install the macOS for the first time in your system, then, don't get confused by watching the list of multiple SMBIOS, given here, which SMBIOS to select from. Now, paste here, the copied SMBIOS, from the OpenCore install guide, and then hit the Enter key on your keyboard. Now, as you can see here, that SMBIOS info is generated. Please note, these generated SMBIOS info shown here, will automatically get updated in the config.plist file, and, read this. I'm opening here my config.plist file again, in the application property, plist editor. Here, let me show you that, the generated SMBIOS info in the application, is the same in our config.plist file. Here, shown the type, is the system product name in config.plist file. The second is serial in this application, and here in config.plist file is system serial number. The third is board serial in this application, and here in config.plist file is MLB. The fourth is SMUUID in this application, and here in config.plist file is system UUID. If in case you see that entries are not updated automatically in the config.plist file, and are not matching with the SMBIOS application generated info, then you can manually update the SMBIOS info in the config.plist file by giving a double click on the entries. That's it. Now press the Enter key to return to the main menu, here in SMBIOS application. Now, type the letter Q to quit the SMBIOS application, and save the settings of the config.plist file. Now the only thing that is left in this segment of the config.plist file. Change the value of this entry, update SMBIOS mode, to, custom, from, create. Changing the value to custom on Dell laptops is required, custom SMBIOS GUID quirk setting, to custom with, custom SMBIOS GUID quirk, enabled. Let me show you this thing. Here as you can see, in the segment, kernel, then in the section, quirks, here it is enabled. Here, done, with the setting this segment, platform info. Now, save the settings of the config.plist file. Now, let's move to our next segment in this OpenCore install guide. I recommend you to read all of this information given here. And here is our next segment, UEFI. Here, as you can see in this image, changes in this segment to do in red color marking. Here, the settings of this section, drivers, leave it, nothing to change, it is same. Here next section is quirks, change the values of these two entries to true. As shown in the image of the OpenCore install guide with marking. And here is the last entry of this section. I'm leaving it unchanged. This is to be enabled for HP systems. Now, save the settings of the config.plist file. That's it, now finally the setup of config.plist file is done. Please, make sure to save the settings of the config.plist file, before quitting the application proprietary, plist editor. Now, what is next? OpenCore config.plist sanity check. The time is to verify the config.plist file may have missed something. Now to open an OpenCore Sanity Checker. Type the same in the Google search bar, or, I have given the link, please find the same in the description box below of this video. Click on the first link to open the OpenCore Sanity Checker webpage. Here, you have to choose your CPU architecture and OpenCore package version from the drop-down menu bars. Then, click here to choose your config.plist file, or, drag it here. Here, as you can see, that my config.plist file is uploaded. Here, is the result of my config.plist file sanity check. Scroll down the page, and, start checking the result, starting from the acpi segment. Here, as you can see all of the green check marks. Also seen here, one red cross mark now. Let's see what it is for. It is related to the SMC battery manager.txt. I can ignore it, because it will not be going to cause any issue while booting. It will be get resolved later. The next alert is showing up in the segment platform info, which is a yellow color question mark. It is normal, no need to worry about this. Again, this will not going to cause any issue while booting. It is suggesting to change the value of this quirk, which is the update SMBIOS mode, to create, from, the custom. I kept the value, custom, because of the Dell system. Otherwise, you can keep it changed to create. The next alert is showing up in the section, Quirks, which is related to the previous one. Again, it is for the Dell systems which I had changed according to the OpenCore install guide. Except for these three alerts which I have shown you, Found no major serious errors which can cause an issue while booting. Those 3 alerts will get resolved later. You can make a copy of this application folder, proprietary, which is the plist editor, in your USB installer, in the EFI partition, so that you can do the editing of the config.plist file later on after the successful installation of macOS. Next, is the macOS installation part. You are going to see the recorded video screen, which was recorded on my mobile phone. I'm going to reboot the system, then boot the system from my USB installer created in this video, and we'll start macOS installation. I recommend you to watch this video till the end, more interesting things are coming ahead.